Are you ready to take charge of your well-being and really start to live well? Well, this is the show for you. Welcome to Optimal Living KW. I'm Kelly Wagner, and Optimal Living is all about showing you how to stop just surviving in life and start thriving. How? By taking an integrated approach to well-being. At Optimal Living, we recognize that there are many different factors that contribute to your feeling of well-being and your level of personal satisfaction with your life. And we explore how those different factors are interconnected. You'll learn steps that you can take today as you start on your journey towards a more holistic understanding of your health and your happiness. On today's show, our focus is on social health. You know how you have certain relationships where you look forward to spending time with people because you really enjoy their company, but even the idea of spending time with other people can feel like a total energy drain? Well, pay attention to those relationships because the depth and the quality of your relationships certainly has an impact on your well-being. We're going to look at different things that influence our social connections and help you to find the ones that nourish you in all the areas of your life. On today's show, Pat Singleton will be telling us about some innovative social programs that you might be able to get involved with. And social media specialist Kaylee Klatz will be talking with us about our online social networks. But first, we're going to take a look at the one common denominator that's present in all of your relationships, you. You, of course, are part of the equation in all of your relationships, and what you bring to the table certainly has an impact on the nature and the quality of those relationships. Social psychologist Dr. Ann Wilson is here with us to talk more about how our own self-image can impact us in our relationships. Thanks for spending time with us today. So, how would something like our own self-image impact what we bring to a relationship?
Well, the way that you just described it is just about right on. So essentially, all of our relationships are perceived through the lens of how we see ourselves. So because our own self-view is so important, we end up seeing our relationships kind of in a reflection of the ways that we see ourselves. So for example, someone who has more high self-esteem, someone who thinks well of themselves, tends to feel pretty positively about their relationships too. And you know how sometimes problems happen in almost any kind of relationship, but
Sure.
Sometimes you can take that little negative comment or a little behavior and put a positive spin on it, or you can take it in the worst possible light. So our own self-view tends to really help us to see those those little stumbling blocks and that kind of thing in the most positive way. And we tend not to take them as big deals, and we tend to be able to get past them in a more positive way. So
That's if we have a positive self-image.
that's right.
Oh, okay. So that's interesting. I mean, a lot of times people think of their relationships in terms of, well, that person makes me feel this way, or that person does this in the relationship, whether that's good or bad. And so your research is showing that how we feel about ourselves is actually going to influence how we perceive the other person's contribution to our relationship. Would that be fair?
Yeah, that's right. So it's a dynamic kind of process, and each person in the relationship brings something to the relationship, but part of what they bring is how they see themselves. So there's a dynamic relation back and forth, and in fact, somebody who has a very positive self-view can even help to mold a relationship in a more positive way. So over time, you end up with a more positive overall feeling in the relationship. And the other person, maybe who has more insecurities, can end up feeling better about themselves too, simply because their partner always kind of sees them in the best light. So our relationships can end up influencing the way we see ourselves.
Absolutely. That makes a lot of sense as you talk about it. So if you're in relationship with people who generally feel bad about themselves, they could, maybe bring you down a little bit. Mm-hmm. Whereas vice versa, if you're in relationship, you're not feeling so confident about yourself. If you're in a relationship with someone who is, they could help bring you up too.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay. So that's an important way that not only do we influence our relationships, but our relationships influence us. So to be aware of the kinds of relationships we're in, that's right, is really important to our well-being. Mm-hmm. So what kinds of things form our self-image in the first place? I mean, that starts right from, the nursery, mm-hmm. but all the way growing up, we're influenced on how we feel about ourselves.
Yes. So again, relationships come right back into it. So a lot of our self-view comes from our initial relationships with our parents and caregivers. And then all of the relationships that are important in our lives, through our entire lives, end up influencing our relationships as well. So one of the big areas that research has shown that our self-view comes from is how our the people who are important in our lives, the kind of feedback that they give us, the kind of support that they give us, whether or not the acceptance we feel in those relationships feels unconditional or not.
Okay.
So if we have a parent, for example, who tends to be quite critical, we'll end up growing up to be fairly critical of ourselves. If we have a parent who, not necessarily sees us as perfect, but sees us as someone that they love unconditionally, then we'll tend to be a little more forgiving of some of our own foibles as we get older as well. So the parent relationships and the caregiver relationships form the basis for that. But then it's not all determined from there on in. And all of the important relationships we have in our lives can end up also coming into play in how we end up feeling about ourselves. So it's again a dynamic. So in one way, I'm suggesting that the self influences the relationships we have, but at the same time, the relationships that we have influence how we see ourselves. So it goes back and forth, right?
Sure. Now, if we maybe weren't someone who had perfect parents who gave us all those, positive self-image messages, what are some ways that we can nurture our own self-image? If we're feeling maybe a little less confident than we'd like to, a little less positive in the world, what are some ways we can influence our own feelings about ourselves to improve our relationships?
Yeah, that's a good question. There's a lot of debate in the research area on how exactly to foster a positive sense of self. So just seeking sort of positive self-esteem all the time and saying, oh, I'm a great person, that might not be the way that we want to do it, because we can also end up falling into the trap of being a little bit too self-aggrandizing and thinking of ourselves as better than other people. And that can be really damaging to our relationships.
Sure, yeah.
So one of the messages that comes out of the literature seems to be that it's important to really develop a strong internal basis for your self-worth. So, for example, you can affirm yourself by thinking about some of the core values that you have and how you act on those values in your daily life and that sort of thing. Or forming a basis on the ways that you interact with your community and the things that you give back to people and the strong and stable elements of your life, as opposed to saying, well, when I succeed at something, then I feel great, right?
Right.
So whenever we base our self-esteem on external features like, approval from others or success in a specific area, or maybe how we look, those things are things that go up and down, and then our self-esteem ends up being on kind of a roller coaster. So one of the ways to really help to get away from that cycle is to think about aspects of ourselves that don't really change and that we pretty much always feel secure in.
Sure.
And then those things can kind of form a good, solid basis throughout the rest of our lives.
Great. Really, really helpful information, Dr. Wilson. Thank you so much for your time today. You can find out more about Dr. Wilson's research and about how social relationships influence your well-being by visiting our website at optimallivingkw.com. Coming up next, we'll be looking at some innovative social programs that can help improve your well-being, and we'll find out how. Stay tuned for more Optimal Living. Well, most of us are familiar with food banks as places that collect and distribute food to those in need. But Pat Singleton is the executive director of the Cambridge Self-Help Food Bank, where not only do they do that, but they also offer some innovative social programs that help people to get a hand up and not just a hand out, right, Pat?
Yes.
Well, tell me about the philosophy that you have behind some of the social programs that you have here.
Well, our mission statement talks about providing supplementary food. So that would be food for 3 to 5 days. Mm-hmm. But then the mission statement goes on to talk about working with families and individuals to self-reliance. And so how do we help you help yourself? This is a great food bank, but we're hoping that you can go back to school or to a training program or perhaps volunteer somewhere or do something beyond coming here to receive food.
Sure, because people can fall on hard times, but it's not necessarily that you want them to feel that that's always going to be the case. Yeah. So can you give me some examples of some of the kinds of programs that you have in place here that would help people do those things?
I think probably one of the things that make us most different from many food banks would be our co-op. So it's a food cooperative we offer here. And we've been doing that since we started 25 years ago.
Okay.
And so those that belong to the food co-op would still be on or below the low income cutoff. And they would need food on a more regular basis. Emergency food is 8 to 10 times per year at our food bank. And so then how can they increase what food that they do need? And so they would come here as part of the co-op. They would work a minimum of 4 to 6 hours a month, contribute $9, and then they would be able to receive food twice a month. But what the best part of that co-op is, as they're here doing whatever their hours might be, how do we help them translate that then onto their resume or onto getting some hours here that could give them a letter of reference for a job or maybe a training program or something.
Right, sure. And what kinds of work would they be doing? Helping package?
So they would be helping package food. They could help in the warehouse. They could be helping at the front desk. It could be something in the kitchen. And so while they're learning how to make carrot soup, which is something they can take back to their family, then they're also learning it's a new skill, or maybe just somebody sort of, I guess we see it as, how can we be your cheering section to help you move on to other things?
Sure. And I think that oftentimes, if you're sort of in hard times yourself, one of the last things you might think about doing is going out and volunteering your time to some cause, because you feel like you're the one who needs some help. Mm-hmm. But there are lots of benefits to volunteering, aren't there? That someone who is in hard times could benefit from.
And I think you're here, and so you meet other people that are in sort of their life is a struggle as yours is, and you have, it's like, oh my goodness, I'm not the only one who's feeling hard on myself because I can't find work or I can't get accepted into a school program. And just, when you have somebody that says, yes, you can do it, I think that's the part where then you can start believing in yourself. And it's hard if you've lost that. And often if we've had people here for a couple of years, it's really hard to help build that self-esteem back, and that, yes, I can do it, that belief in who I am and what I can do.
For sure. Because I think some of that is a big challenge of people who are stricken with, financial issues. There's a lot of social isolation that comes with that. And so just being able to talk with people who are in similar circumstances can be sort of therapeutic, and also being around people who provide that encouragement for, the skills that you can learn while you're volunteering in these different kinds of programs are transferable skills that you can take.
I think our clothing room, is a great example. The woman that organizes the clothing room has, the shelving, everything is new shelving, and we had a church put a new floor in, and everything is so organized as to sizes and colors, and that I think that's a skill you can even take back to your home. But even that will help in a retail, helping you to get some experience that you could then take into retail. Sure. Some of our kitchen programs will help you to be able to take that into working at a restaurant, be it fast food or, something more fine dining, because of the, people will also take the safe food handling course. And so that's one more thing to add to your resume that you didn't have when you came here.
Absolutely. Just having some of that knowledge that maybe you didn't have before, experience in the kitchen or business experience, organizing things in the clothing section that you mentioned. You may come here initially for some assistance, but you can also pick up some really useful life skills and job skills too that you can add to your resume.
Yeah.
And I think there's something too to be said for, certainly there are benefits to be had from the recipient of those services, but for the people who are putting these programs together or offering ways for people to get that hand up, there's a benefit for them too, the ones who are helping give the people those programs.
The woman who organizes our clothing room, I think if we talk to her, she would say she receives far more than what she gives. She's just an awesome mentor and model for people who, maybe are a bit shy or are a little hard on themselves. But Donna has done amazing things to encourage people. But I believe if she was here, she would say that she's been the one that has been helped with what she does. We have another program called a mentor program.
Yeah.
And so it's a program where food bank participants would be part of this 5-week training program. And we sort of, how can we help you to really take a leadership role in the community and in the food bank community?
Right.
And so there's a number of workshops around some soft skill things, and then some other things on, personality dimensions and dealing with difficult people, or all kinds of different things that would be a help as they come back and bring leadership skills back to the food bank. And then they as well can model and mentor for other new people coming in.
Sure. Sounds like some wonderful tools that you have, Pat, here to help people really build up their self-esteem and build their social networks and skills while they're at it.
I mean, for some of our families this could also, it's part of when your income changes, sometimes you lose friends because you can't go out to eat, or you can't go to hockey games, or the kind of things you might do.
Right.
And so you have to really revisit so what are we as a family now if we can't go to the show, and if we can't do this? And so there will be things that we'll have here, picnics and a Christmas party and that kind of thing.
Oh, good.
So that our families can still have some of those social things, just maybe in a different way.
Sure. Other ideas for how you can still get out there. That's great. Thank you. Well, if you're someone who's in need, contact your local food bank and find out what kinds of other services are available to you. Or if you're a business that might be conducive to offering some kind of work exchange or volunteer program that could help people with limited financial means build their social network, build their skills, or otherwise help them in any way with their health or well-being, consider the possibility of how you too might help someone get a hand up. After the break, we'll be visiting with social media specialist Kelly Platz about how our online social networks influence and impact our well-being. Stay with us. Well, applications like Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn have become the online equivalents of hanging out at the coffee house, mingling at a cocktail party, and networking at a business conference. But are these and other social online networks helping or harming our social relationships? Here to tell us more is social media specialist Kelly Platz with the University of Waterloo.
Hi, Kelly.
Hi. So, Kelly, there is such a huge proliferation now of people being online with these different applications and having these online virtual relationships. How does that impact our social networks?
It's definitely had an impact. I don't think anyone can say it hasn't. But I would say overall, it's really a positive impact. It's helped expand communities and make people engage in areas and ways with people that they might not have a chance to do before.
Right.
There's a lot of security concerns that have been in the news for how many years now with Facebook privacy and underage children being online in situations where they shouldn't.
Right.
But I think overall, we're starting to have more of a positive education environment with how social media is helping us rather than what it's doing to scare us.
So it's a matter of being aware of different things like how to modify your privacy settings to make sure that your personal information is protected so that you can access those social networks in healthy ways.
Exactly. Facebook probably is the one that comes to mind the most with how much privacy settings they offer you and how overwhelming it can be. But one of the tips that I suggest everyone do is that they know what their Facebook privacy settings are and maintain it. It's not enough to just sign up for something and click, yes, I accept, but to go on every month or so and check and see what your Facebook profile settings are. If you're on LinkedIn, whether your your LinkedIn settings are open to the public or they're private, and if that's what you want. Like any other social situation, you have the right to take charge of how you are presenting yourself.
Okay, so once you're on there and you select your particular settings, it's not that they would change arbitrarily on you, but maybe depending on what you're using those connections for, you might want to change it. Is that what you mean?
It can be a bit of both, actually, Kelly. If Facebook, for example, updates their privacy settings and they've modified some of the settings, they can change on you. And Facebook is now getting pretty good at alerting you when your settings might be changing, and they'll notify you. But if you don't act on it, then it stays how they've changed it.
Sure. Okay. And a lot of people, I think, the whole interconnection that we have online is helping people inform each other about those changes. I've seen lots of that on Facebook too, with people alerting each other to new changes that are coming down the pipe.
I think everyone sees those status updates of, oh my goodness, check your message or check your privacy settings. I now see this of you.
Yeah.
And that's good because it means that we're starting to realize that our personal life that we're living online, we're starting to care about it that same way that we do in real life. And people are starting to share that empathetic knowledge that you would with a neighbor in in your next door neighbor when something's going on in their garage or something.
That's an important point of conversation too, because you and I have talked before too about the importance of being transparent online and not kind of putting forward. A lot of people feel a little bit of safety behind this virtual wall, that they can maybe be someone who they aren't in real life. But why is it important to still be yourself and be transparent?
I think if you're actually going to live as you online, so if I'm actually being Kaylee on Facebook and Twitter and wherever I might be, that now is part of who I am as my name. It becomes part of my real life identity. It's not just an online identity that I've created. And we know that people are starting to use those online characters or personas that we're creating to fact check for jobs, university applications, scholarship applications. That's becoming really part of our persona.
That's true. I mean, the distinction between real life and the virtual world is really becoming blurred, because, and then that's something that I think a lot of people don't think of. If they're using Twitter or Facebook personally to interact with their friends, they don't think of the fact that their job, a job that they've applied for, the company is actually looking them up to see what kind of person they are. And so if you're someone else online, then you try and present yourself to be in person, that can quickly become apparent.
It can be really startling too, especially if you're using your full name and your real name, and then I meet you in real life and you actually don't know any of the things that you've been talking about online. It causes a bit of distrust. It would really break our relationship if suddenly you weren't that magic baker that you were pretending to be, and you wanted to come and share cupcakes with me, for example, as a really large and general example.
Sure.
But I would then not really trust you.
And I think trust is the basis of any relationship, whether it's in person or online. And there's certainly talk of, being who you are, in both places, because if you break a trust in any area of your life, it's hard to rebuild that.
Yeah. And it has those ripple effect. I can't say that. It has a ripple effect to other places in your life.
Of course. Yeah. So what are some of the ways that we can make sure our online relationships are healthy, and also to balance that? Because it's important still to have personal contact with people, right?
It is. And there's a couple different ways you can look at that. One way would be sometimes people start to feel really overwhelmed with where they are online and that they feel like they're sharing too much. And a simple way is just to back that off. Mm-hmm. No one says that you have to be on Facebook or Twitter or LinkedIn. And if you're not there, that's okay as well. So sometimes giving yourself that permission to clean up your Facebook profile or deactivate an account for a little while if you're feeling too overwhelmed can sometimes help you regain that balance.
Okay.
And then the other thing that is really important to me, and what I really try to do with the community of friends that I've built online, is meet in real life. Make sure that you're still doing that face-to-face interaction.
Yeah, because that's an important part of the human experience, right? Certainly the internet does open up a lot of different opportunities to us for business connections and for friendships. But if you don't kind of ground those in real life, face-to-face relationships, it cannot work the way that you intend it to work.
You can only create so deep of a conversation or a relationship in 140 characters.
Yeah, exactly. So if you're a 140 character kind of a person, that's a good venue for you, but know that you're going to be that way in real life too.
Exactly.
Great. Kaylee, thanks so much for spending your time with us today.
Thanks for having me.
You can follow Kaylee on Twitter at rightgirl, or you can find out more about social networks and how they affect our relationships by visiting the website at optimallivingkw.com. What a great show we've had today, with lots of helpful information and new ideas about ways to improve our social health and our relationship well-being. Remember, you can achieve healthy relationships too by taking an integrated approach to your well-being and considering the health of your relationships and your social health together with all the other aspects of your life. Be sure to watch all the episodes in the Optimal Living series to get the whole picture, and email me your comments and your questions by visiting the website at optimallivingkw.com, where you'll find other resources to help you take charge of your well-being. I'm Kelly Wagner, and until next time, live well and be well.